This Guy's Garage. Like and subscribe.
We do have another urgent issue that we're facing in this country, and it is the issue of auto thefts. And in the interests of allowing this committee to continue working on C-26, but also to walk and chew gum at the same time and deal with the urgent issue of auto thefts in this country, I plan to be moving my motion that I put on notice at the last committee meeting to discuss. However, given that there have been some discussions with the other parties present, we have come forward with proposed amendments to this motion so that we can program this committee to work simultaneously on C-26 while also working on the very important issue of auto thefts. We know that in 2022, the latest year that auto theft insurance statistics were made available, that $1.2 billion in auto theft claims were made. We know that over 100,000 vehicles were stolen in Canada last year, and this is a growing issue. It's increased year over year, 50% in the provinces of Ontario and Quebec. It's a cross-Canada issue. Alberta is the third highest auto theft issue. This is a very important issue in my riding. And I'm very concerned because we do need education to help people know what tools are available to them to help protect their vehicles from auto theft. But at the same time, if the federal government does not take action to secure our ports and to put these repeat offenders behind bars, I fear that we are going to see an increase in the brazenness of these criminal acts, including violence committed against our citizens, if we don't take action to immediately put a chokehold on this unprecedented flow of Canadians' vehicles out of particularly the Port of Montreal. And I understand, Mr. Chair, that my colleague Larry Brock is on the speaking list and will be next on the speaking list. So, Mr. Chair, in the interests of ensuring that this committee can continue with its very important study on C-26, but also continue and accelerate the study that was already agreed upon by this committee on October 23rd, the motion put forward by our colleagues in the Bloc Québécois, Ms. Michaud, I will cede the floor to my colleague, Mr. Brock, so that he can move the appropriate amendment. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Brock.
Thank you, Chair. So the amendment now being proposed reads as follows, that all the words after the word committee in the first paragraph...
Point of order, Mr. Chair. We don't have a motion. There's no motion.
There's a motion on
so you can't move an amendment if there's no motion.
So he should, Mr. Lloyd should read the motion.
I moved the motion in my speech just now.
Did you move the motion?
He
The
did
motion has
not.
been circulated to the committee.
He did not.
It was circulated on Wednesday.
You have to.
Can you read the motion,
has
Mr.
not been moved.
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, the original motion as it read that the committee report to the House its acknowledgement that convening a national summit of politicians and insiders to discuss auto theft will not prevent such theft. It also recognizes that preventing auto theft falls squarely under the federal responsibility of the Canada Border Services Agency, the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, Transport Canada, and Public Safety Canada, and recommend to the House that the government A, immediately reverse changes to Bill C-5, which allows car-stealing criminals to be on house arrest instead of serving jail time, B, strengthen criminal code provisions to ensure that repeat car-stealing criminals remain in jail, and C, provide CBSA and our ports with the necessary resources to prevent stolen cars from leaving the country.
Point of order.
That's my motion, Mr.
Yes.
Chair.
Mr. Chair, I would suggest that this is out of order for two reasons. In terms of what the House has already considered, the House considered yesterday a substantially similar motion. And the Parliament, the House of Commons, decided not to proceed with that motion. As you know, this is a very rare occurrence, Mr. Chair, that ultimately, when a bill is defeated, you can't at the next day suggest to the committee that that bill be considered. In this case, it was an opposition motion, and it was defeated. And now Conservatives are proposing substantially the same motion today at committee. Now, this is something that really doesn't have precedence, Mr. Chair, because it's kind of shameless that when Parliament decides something, that members of the committee would try to come back with what is substantially the same consideration. And it is true that if this was 3 or 4 years from now, you could say, well, things have substantially changed since Parliament considered this issue, so we should have more discussion and debate on the issue. In this case, it was yesterday, it was last night, it was 14 hours ago, where Parliament decided that the motion was inadequate. I certainly moved an amendment, as you'll recall, Mr. Chair, on behalf of the NDP, talking about cracking down on organized crime, cracking down on money laundering, restoring the cuts, the crime prevention programs that the Harper government put in place, and Conservatives rejected that. And so the motion that was offered yesterday in the House was profoundly weak and contained a lot of disinformation. That's why Parliament defeated it. We can't come back the next day and consider substantially the same motion. And as you note, Mr. Chair, the intention would be to recommend to the House. The House made the decision yesterday. The intent of the motion today is to recommend to the House the same thing. There is an issue of repetition that is very clearly in all our procedural manuals, something that is clearly prohibited. You can't keep bringing the same issue up in the same form. Secondly, I would suggest, Mr. Chair, because it recommends to the House, this is trying to do indirectly what is prohibited directly. In other words, trying to use a committee to reconsider something that was considered yesterday by the House of Commons.
Thank you, Mr. Julian. We're going to suspend for a couple of minutes, and I can confer with the clerk. So 2 minutes, please. I take into consideration your comments, Mr. Julian, and after speaking with the clerk, the motion hasn't been put before the committee prior to. I don't have the other motion in front of me right now to compare. So our authority basically is saying that we're going to continue with the motion and allow it to stand at this time.
Mr. Chair, point of order?
Yes,
Change that decision, please.
certainly.
Thank you.
Beat me to it, Peter.
Oh, sorry. I think this is ridiculous.
Mr. Julian, do you want to speak to after that? I gave you the opportunity there. You're both up at the same time.
No, I hope we can vote on this and get, our witnesses have given us a tremendous amount of content, and I've got tons of questions, and quite frankly, I'm a little frustrated with all the disruption that the Conservatives have caused over the last few meetings on another subject that then they've decided to drop to try to do this subject. It's just, it's time to start questioning the witnesses.
So we're challenging the chair's ruling. Is a recorded vote?
Mr. Biddle.
No.
Mr. Geir.
No.
Mr. Shifke.
No.
Mr. McKinnon.
No.
No. Mr. Garrison.
No.
Mr. Shipley.
You might have wanted to huddle that one first.
Mr. Shipley.
Yes.
Mr. Lloyd.
Yes.
Mr. Matz.
Yes.
Mr. Brock.
Yes.
Madame Normandin.
Oui.
Mr. Julian.
No.
6 yeas, 5 nays.
So the chair has been defeated. So we move on?
Yeah.
So we move on now to
So it would be Mr.
Yeah.